Today's second story takes us to Colombia, where President-elect Abelardo de la Espriella has suspended the transition process, accusing President Gustavo Petro of trying to remain in power through a coup d'etat. The dispute escalated after Petro said earlier this week that he would not recognize de la Espriella's victory in the June 21st runoff election, alleging fraud without providing evidence. In a video posted on social media on Tuesday, the conservative Trump-endorsed de la Espriella claimed Petro and his party were attempting to cling to power at all costs by refusing to accept the election result. I can now speak to Glaeldys Gonzales. She's an analyst for the Southern Andes and the International Crisis Group in the Colombian capital, Bogota. Glaeldys, welcome. Just wrap it up for us. What's going on in Colombia? What's happening?
Well, yes, the latest development is that the transition process in Colombia is undergoing a setback following its suspension from both sides, from the outgoing government and from the incoming government and administration. We have seen rising tensions since this process began, although both sides initially agreed on a roadmap and on carrying out meetings with different ministries, these political differences have hampered the process of the meetings and going forward. So we have seen this a big obstacle for this particular process, which is very important to the incoming administration.
Yeah, let's look at the accusations one by one. Is there any indication that Gustavo Petro's accusations of fraud might be true?
Yes, well, these particular allegations have been dismissed by election observers. They have not far been public of the detailed account of what was supposed to happen or any of backing of alleged fraud. This last week, Petro had a meeting with his parliamentary bench, Pacto Histórico, his political party, where he presented the evidence, and that was what was known afterwards. And they agreed to take this to the Council of State to move forward with requesting the annulment of the election. But as I said, no evidence has been made public so far.
Mm-hmm. And all of this now has led to the president-elect accusing Petro of staging a coup d'etat. But it does take a lot more than refusing to recognize someone's victory. As far as you're concerned, is there anything to these accusations?
Well, we don't see any evidence to support these claims of a coup attempt. These accusations, as far as we see or analyze them, are part of this broader back and forth between these two political sides, and rather than representing a threat to the transition. We have to also be aware that despite this dispute, the transition is moving ahead. Abelardo's cabinet is taking shape with 11 appointments so far, as well as regional and transition processes. And Petro, from his side, has confirmed that he will leave office and hand over power on 7 August.
Mm-hmm. Colombia is deeply divided. Do you see this dispute destabilizing the country?
Well, yes, the country is right now deeply polarized. There's an increasingly dangerous narrative of us and them on both sides, and with a country with such a long history of political violence, political leaders should be very careful to not deepen social divisions. We also have to remember that this pause in the transition talks could further heighten political tensions, but it does not derail the process itself. This process is mandatory, and it will take shape and progress through other mechanisms. It is a legal obligation, and so we see that the greater risk so far is that this continues to deepen mistrust and feeds on an already polarized political climate if both sides continue to hang on to this narrative. The other element that remains unchanged is the the inauguration, which will we expect to continue to take place on the 7th August. So that will not alter the transition of power or any way affect this peaceful transition on the democratic standard.
Before I let you go, I want to look at a different aspect, that destabilization in Colombia. Of course, a country with a long history of armed conflict. Could it presumably be exploited by the country's armed actors in some way?
We have seen this in the past, that armed and criminal groups have exploited moments or contexts of social unrest in particular to expand their control. During the protests in 2021, they took advantage of very chaotic conditions at local communities to strengthen their influence at a social and economic level, even encouraging people to take part in these protests to avoid having any interference or passing of state institutions. So that risk is there. Right now, it's a moment, and it's even more important for political leaders, as I said, to lower tensions rather than deepening polarization and work towards paths of reconciliation and focusing on the urgent challenges that the country faces, such as its fragmented and criminalized and conflict.
That was Glaeldys Gonzales of the International Crisis Group. Thank you so much.
Thank you.